our featured story of the night. So something else that's coming that I did not expect anytime soon is a DodgeBall sequel, everybody. It's only been 20 years, so, 19 years.
19.
But Vince Vaughn, who, I'm actually kind of excited to see him do something because I haven't seen him do a lot recently.
I thought he retired.
Vince Vaughn's, yeah, pretty much, right? I thought he was done. But nope, 20 years later, since 2004 was the last time this came out, he's coming back to produce and star in the DodgeBall sequel, which grossed $168.4 million, and it cost $20 million to make. Now, they haven't said if the rest of the cast is coming back. Now, of course, we also had Christine Taylor in there. We had Ben Stiller. Of course, Ben Stiller as his competition back and forth. Rip Torn, unfortunately, passed away. Rest in peace, Rip Torn. Justin Long, Stephen Root. I fucking love Stephen Root in this shit, too. Alan
Tudyk.
Yeah, Jason Bateman. Great cast on this. Super great cast. And I used to love it. we were joking about before we started the show, but it's like dodge, dip, dive, duck, and dodge. You know what I mean? The 5 Ds of dodgeball. And I like the movie a lot. I was really excited to see they're actually making a sequel, but it's like 20 years later. Vince Vaughn hasn't done anything for a long time. Will Ben Stiller come back for this? I don't know. Exactly. Is it a good idea to wait so long? We've talked about this before. Yeah, but it's been a long time. We've talked about this before. Is it like with Twister? You know what I mean? Is it a good idea to wait 20 years to do a sequel to something? Do you just let it be at that point? Rachel, what do you think? Are you excited about Dodgeball 2? Are you ready to get your dodgeball pants back on, get into that field and start dodging some balls? Or are you like, nah, bro, leave it back in the early 2000s?
No, I am not excited. I like Dodgeball a lot. I think it's a great movie, but just like Zoolander, it doesn't need a sequel. Zoolander got a sequel.
It did.
Yeah.
Did anyone watch it though?
I watched it.
I didn't.
I think I saw a few minutes of it.
I actually just watched it again recently.
You did?
I
did,
loved the original. I just showed Lexi the original a couple weeks ago because she'd never seen it. Who hasn't seen Zoolander?
Right.
And I feel like Dodgeball falls into that same boat. Dodgeball and Zoolander are like cousins, cinematically, and
it was the same kind of time too.
I feel like either one of them need a sequel. They were just good little snippets of their time. That's what comedy was at the moment, and it just doesn't, I think, work for a modern audience. I think. I haven't watched Dodgeball in many, many years, but I don't think the humor maybe aged as well as we would have hoped it did. There's probably definitely a few jokes in there that wouldn't fly for today's audience.
100%.
So I think you should just leave it where it is and call it a day. None of those actors are at their prime anymore. Let's move on.
Let it be. I will say this about the Zoolander sequel, like going back and watching it, I think it's better than I thought it was when I first saw it. But then again, I think I was a little intoxicated when I watched it again. It was over the holidays. And it was just, it's not the same energy. That Hansel is not as hot as it used to be.
You can't capture the lightning in a bottle twice.
Right.
I will say Will Ferrell did a good job in the second one, though, too. Will Ferrell still killed it. And they had some fun moments and some bad moments. Like all of a sudden he had a son and he got mad because his son was like fat. He was mad about his son being fat, pretty much. Like, my son, that's not right. Doesn't hold up. That's a little difficult. But I think Ben Stiller will come back for this too. I think he will because. Again, it's kind of like one that at that same time. I think he'll do. What else is he doing? I think he's just producing and mostly like
directing.
He produces Severance. Severance is something he's been doing too.
He was producing and directing a few episodes, but he's been producing that. That show's huge.
More behind the camera now. That's kind of what happens too.
I think weirdly enough, Ben Stiller should try to go for serious roles. Do an Adam Sandler. Do an Uncut Gems. Like
Uncut Gems.
Go there. Get in there.
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
That was an impression, so I'm gonna do
that. That was definitely an impression. Keoki, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good idea to delve back in 20 years later to do a Dodgeball sequel, or do you think that we should have left it in 2004?
I was surprised to see that, but I'm like, oh, Ben Stiller wants to do it. I'm Ben Stiller.
Vince
what's
Vaughn.
his face? Yeah, Vince Vaughn.
Vince
That's
Vaughn
how fucking memorable he is.
You know, exactly.
Who gives a shit about Vince Vaughn?
No, I love Vince Vaughn. Like, I watched he had the Freaky movie, which was great. He played great in it. It was pretty nuts. So that's the most recent thing that I've seen him in, but he hadn't gotten a lot of good hits after Wedding Crashers. So I was like, dude, like, I want to see you in more stuff, but it needs to be good. Like, it needs to play off of you. So if there's another Dodgeball, it may play well. And if he's producing and you're able to get enough people back, it could probably work a little bit. But like Rachel said, it might have been just the timing of when it came out. It was like a comedy that can work. I found it to be funny. It wasn't the most hilarious movie, but Patches O'Houlihan, all that. You had Hank Azaria involved.
Steve the Pirate.
Everybody coming. Steven. Yeah, Steven in there. Just like, Steven Root is just hilarious no matter what. And they made it fun. They made that movie fun. And you could throw Justin Long in there now. So, and Alan's just, when is he
as a
great?
pirate? Fucking great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
Great pirate.
Yeah.
It
underplayed. I think the only person they don't need is,
They don't need Vince Vaughn.
They don't need Vince Vaughn. You got Vince Vaughn.
Oh.
But it's true. He's not completely necessary, but he's fun.
It's Dodgeball though.
Like, Rip Torn was one of the best parts of that movie, and
so good. He was so good.
And
he was.
What do you do without Rip Torn? He was so funny.
He was funny.
I mean,
he was really funny.
I feel like you make it happen somehow. I mean, the thing about Vince Vaughn, he doesn't have much happening these days, so I think it's a good IP to go back to for him because it did so well.
He doesn't have much happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's not that funny. He worked in the early 2000s.
I liked him back then. Wedding Crashers still one of my favorites.
Wedding Crashers was like what, 2003, 2004? Like, that's 2005. Like the last time he was funny.
Yeah, Keoki.
He's like, come with 2005. It was true. I watched it. I enjoyed it immensely. I own several copies of it. It was a delight and still is today.
What have we done? We don't need any more American Pie sequels.
No, we don't need more American Pies.
I've seen all of them, but we don't need any more. We're done.
You've seen all of them? But why? Why would you? Why would you watch after 3? I watched 3 and I was like, I'm making a mistake here, and I knew that in the theater, but I still watched it.
Something weaseled into my brain and said, "Watch all of them."
Oh my goodness!
We're also still watching those Fast and Furious movies, though, Rachel. So I'm just saying.
I am. I already bought my tickets for 10. I am set for opening night.
You ready?
I can't say much. I saw Mario again last night, so I can't say much.
So Mario again? Nice.
Yep. I'm just like, but Vince Vaughn, I worked with him one time, and he is that person. Real, I worked in that couples.
I've heard he's a dick.
It just seemed like he was on cocaine the whole time, which I've heard he loves. I mean, just talking really fast.
Lawyers. If any lawyers are watching the show, allegedly,
always allegedly. I should have hashtag allegedly in the top corner. But I mean, like, I worked on Couples Retreat. I remember it was the guy from Christmas Story was directing. Allegedly directing, because Vince Vaughn was really stepping in a lot, And there was a scene I worked in that didn't make the cut, and it was actually like pretty funny. Never made the cut, the whole scene, but it was if you watch the movie, you can see the gap. Like they go on some trail, and then on the trail they end up at a transgender bar, and they took it out. But it was actually going back to Transformers. So. It was Jon Favreau and him were in the bar, and Jon Favreau was dancing on this girl, and then Vince Vaughn looks around and goes, Decepticons! These are dudes! That would not fly these days, but that's what he said.
That's cut the whole thing. Hilarious. That's perfect. That's literally comedic timing. That's perfect.
Cut the whole thing.
God. Oh, man. But they
cut the whole thing.
Room. Wow, that's actually.
You know what? I kind of support that cut.
It probably would have caused problems. It would have caused massive problems.
I know, it would have caused a lot of problems.
But that was the whole joke for the whole thing, and I'm like, is this gonna fly? I remember we were shooting it. I'm like, is this gonna fly?
But that's what they were doing. They were shooting whatever they could.
They're leaning on these early 2000s jokes that just aren't funny anymore.
Yep,
it's true.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't. It won't
That's
work
Vince
today.
Vaughn's humor, though. Will that work nowadays for a dodgeball too?
They'll
I have
probably
less
clean it
hope
up.
for the dodgeball 2 now after having this discussion than I did at the beginning of the discussion.
Yeah. I just don't know. Like for me, I'm just like Vince Vaughn doing this. I'm just like, all right, man.
Yeah.
And he just announced that apparently it's his idea. It's his plot points. It's and you know he's not writing the whole thing, of course, but it's his idea for it, and then that's why he's coming on to do it. He hasn't got anybody attached to this shit. We know his past. We know what he's done. Will his shit fly these days? As Rachel says, I don't know.